We got to let everyone in. Lee, you want to go ahead and get started on the video?
I am the warrior cry that penetrates, swings, slings through your House of Commons window. Not uncommon in my bloodline, though. I'm the high priestess, the empress, grabbing glass ceilings on my way down, turned into a floor, turned to powwow grounds. I dance and stomp on top of shreds of the 1763 Royal Proclamation buried beneath my feet. Jingle dresses and fancy shawls sweep the red-crusted floor. I crow, hop, stop, and point to every door, evicted of opportunity, every timeline, every generation eradicated. Here is where I stop and pray. I see my own fractured lineage covered up with a Band-Aid branded reconciliation. My moccasins reveal the mess you made crammed onto reservations. Crucifixes and crying eyes disguised as a friendly Thanksgiving dinner get-together. A dinner reservation we did not make, had no choice in the matter of, painted as a special seat by the door and told to leave before the main course. Leftovers presented on a gold-plated platter and advertised as the special. Starved of culture, freedom, love, our children, how special. But my ancestors, unshackle as daily, have prayed for us for millennia. I am your Notre Dame turned to flames, the fire starter that won't get out of the house that shamed her, a ceremonial smoke medicine flavor, healing yet spicy. A lyrical physicist, transcending truths through time and spaces that I now take up. A felony if you dare touch me, burnt hands will remind you that my blood still boils, and land acknowledgements aren't going to fix that. Because acknowledgements without change is like sorry without action. Assaulting the land is an attack on Indigenous women's bodies and communities. This is forced entry to our life givers. Indigenous women nurture our future, feed our babies with ceremony. Babies that grow because of places like Pigeon Lake, the same place where cottagers protest our wild rice monomen for being too thick along the shores for their water skis to get through, of course. The irony of their anger, having something taken away, as though their water sports trump our livelihood. You scream bloody murder and I scream privilege. Tired of being labeled radical because I want clean drinking water for our communities, for Indigenous women and men to be alive, to thrive, yet we're devalued by the blue lives that promise us safety. Tired of being punished because of pigment. But I digress. Indigenous women, the backbone of the body we've abused, holding us together in this rusted, gated, concrete-fused skeleton. They always call me back to my home, my purpose, my power, my displaced body. I forever owe debt to my aunties, grandmothers, sisters, friends, so this one's for you, Miigwech. It's been an honor.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, everybody. What a great spoken word message from Sarah Lewis. Ode to Indigenous. Hearing, I believe, is the name of that. Again, welcome, all my relations. Mitakiwe Oyase. I am Bernice UP Jordan. I am a citizen of the Fort Peck Sioux Nation. I'm a public health program manager at United South and Eastern Tribes, THPS. Next slide. Audience participation tips. We are building a community. Please introduce yourself in the chat, select everyone, and let your fellow participants know your name, tribal affiliation, if applicable, job title, and organization. Everyone will be muted until the audience feedback portion of the hour. During that segment, use the raise my hand icon or Zoom, and the host will unmute you or offer your reflection. You will receive a link to the recording and presentation by the end of this week. Next slide. Disclosures and reminders. There are no relevant financial relationships with ineligible companies for those involved with the ability to control the context of this activity. And a reminder, this session, there's going to be no CEUs offered. Next slide. Okay, you are on Indigenous land. To learn and acknowledge what tribal nation land you are on, just go to this website or text your zip code to this number. Next slide. And reclaiming behavioral health community. We have been growing since January 2002, as most of you know. We are reconnecting our Indigenous community. This data is compiled from 2002 and 2003 registration. So as you can see, those dots represent, a collective area. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, I want to introduce today's facilitators, Holly Echohawk and Stephen Wyatt. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Stephen so he can introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Good day. My name is Stephen Wyatt. I am one of the 2 assistant directors within Tribal Health Program Support. I want to give honor and respect to the Shawnee, Cherokee, and the Yuki peoples, which are the traditional homelands for where I have grown up and I currently reside. And I understand and give honor to the people that are with us today. And I will turn it over to Holly. Thank you.
Hi there, everybody. Good to see you again. I'm Holly Echohawk, and I am a member of the Pawnee Nation in Oklahoma, born and raised in Oklahoma, as many of you know. And now I live in the Portland, Oregon metro area, and I have been obviously part and kind of a creative thinker about the Reclaiming Native Psychological Brilliance series since its inception. And Bernice was in her excitement of today's discussion, she was saying that we started in 2002 and 2003. Actually, it was 2022 was our first year, and this year, 2023, is our second year. So just to correct that. And I'm the senior behavioral health advisor for several different organizations, including C4 Innovations. It's based out of Boston, fabulous social justice organization that focuses on recovery as well. And I'm also the tribal behavioral health advisor for the New England MHTTC, which is the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. So with that, I think we'll just move on to the next slide.
So today's session, we're going to have an open forum, which we like to do at the end of each of our cycles, this is our second one, to see, where we came from and what we covered throughout the last years, and then look forward to see where we want to go forward. And that would include all of the participation input from you all today. So we can go to the next slide. So as Bernice and Holly did mention, we started our first Echo series in 2022. However, what many do not know is that conversation started happening back in 2019, Holly, I want to say, when we had partnered with Holly on a behavioral health assessment that we were working on. And we started talking about the possibility of developing an echo that was focused on behavioral health, but from an Indigenous worldview and perspective. We didn't want it to be your typical echo that was from a Western worldview. So Between the partnership with USET, the New England MHTTC, and C4 Innovations, we launched our first one in January of 2022. We've had 11 monthly sessions that span from January to November, and then we have a break, which is the time where we try to plan for the next start, which is in January. So here we are in November for our open forum to look for your feedback on things you enjoyed, things that you really liked about the series, as well as what you'd like to see in the future. And I'm honored to be as part co-facilitator with Holly today, because I've always been behind the scenes and watching all of the amazing work that all of the staff have been doing. And we've held our each session on the fourth Tuesday of every month, and with all the different time zones listed there, because we know that people are joining us from multiple time zones within the United States, as well as outside of the borders of the United States. So next slide.
So as Stephen was saying, we've had a lot of fun and a lot of joy in creating this space. And again, it's designed for 11 months every year. January through October is the sessions that you all have attended, and there's continuing education credit for those. November of every year, we don't do a formal presentation. We just sort of all collectively take a look at what we've done. And then in December, we don't meet because of holidays. So why we created this space. You can click one more time, Debbie, on it. There's a couple of reasons we started this. One is fundamental to honor Native people and the brilliance of Native people, past, present, and future. I always say, wherever I go in the country, I see brilliance. I see brilliance every day. It doesn't matter if you're a young Native person or an older Native person. I see it. I see it every day, and we wanted to honor that. So that's one of the reasons. And then if you can click again. So as Stephen was saying, every session, everything we do, the lens that we look through is strength-based. And of course, this whole series is Native focus, Native behavioral health focus. We also intentionally designed this to stimulate other parts of our brain and our emotions. So that's one of the reasons why we always frame it at the beginning and end with Native music, Native dance, or Native spoken word. And the other reason we created this space is for you. You all that work in behavioral health or related fields, you're out there fighting the good fight every day. You care deeply about the people you serve. So we created this space for you. We want it to, if you can click one more time. We want it to create a safe space for you, a nurturing space for you. This is your hour to check out. Put down, put down the work you're working on, and all the priorities you have to deal with. This is your hour. This is for you. It's also a clinical and intellectual sanctuary. And most importantly, it's a place where we reimagine the support that we offer to Native people. Reimagine how that is if all the people in your team and in your organization and in other Native organizations or non-Native organizations, reimagine what it would be if everyone looked at Native people with the constant, continuous assumption of brilliance. So the next slide. So we're going to share with you what some factoids about what we've accomplished, what you have participated in over the past year or 2 years. And then we're going to ask input from you on what you would like to see for 2024. So what we've accomplished is, and we're grateful for, very grateful for, and we're honored by your support. You all have made this the most popular tribal echo in the country. We have over 1,200, actually, I think it's 1,265 people registered. Most tribal echoes are really happy if they have, 40 people, 50 people attending. That's huge. You can see the success we've had with this because it resonates, I think, with so many of us. We've also reached about 75%, maybe even more now, of all federally recognized tribes in the country. We have the great participation from many state recognized tribes as well. We've reached hundreds of Native organizations, schools, and universities. We keep track of all of this when you register. We know we've also reached over 125 health clinics, hospitals, and treatment centers. And of course, we've had all 12 of the tribal epicenters listening in and participating as well. We have many more facts than that, but we just want to give you a glimpse of how successful this has been. This is phenomenal success, and it's because of you. So Stephen's going to do some more factoid information points for you.
Thank you, Holly. As Holly mentioned, this Echo series, it would have not been possible without all of your support, because, we have, of course, been very successful in our registration and our attendees, but one of the main focuses that we focused on in our success is the community that we are reconnecting through all of our Echo series, through all of our participants from all across the world. And this would have not been possible without all of your support and consistent tuning in, sharing the information. So we just wanted to provide a quick snapshot of kind of where we came from in 2022 to where we're at in our 2023 with the registrations. So the black line at the very bottom of the graph, you can see we started out, which is our 2022 registrations. We started out right around 300, and you can see that it slowly increased. It dipped a little bit, and then it came back up throughout the year. And then in 2023, our registrations baseline started off much higher, over double the amount in January at about 700, and continued to increase from January all the way until October of 2023 in our registration. So you can see that not only have we increased our number of registrations each month, but also our baseline has increased. So next slide. And then also looking at a comparison of our 2022 and 2023 attendees. So this is taken from all of our data that we gather on a monthly basis through the registration and the chat and all of the data points that we have. And you can see on the 2022 chart on the left side of your screen, our chart maxed out at 250 whenever we had our registrations for our attendees, sorry, for 2022. And then for 2023, we almost doubled that to 400 attendees. And you can see throughout time, our numbers of attendance has varied from month to month, but we have increased from last year to this year. And as I mentioned earlier, we love seeing the numbers. As we always say, we count our carrots. But, to me, this shows the dedication of all of our attendees that continue to come back and take their time out of their day to join this safe space, as Holly said, and engage with us on a monthly basis. And as I mentioned earlier, numbers are one thing, but the network and the community that's being connected together is much more than we can actually show in graphs. I don't know if we could even visualize that in a data graph form, but that's where we really find the value in the Echo series in reconnecting individuals and relatives all across the globe. So next slide.
So this next slide is our attempt to visualize the Native communities that have participated since 2022 and 2023 up to now. You know, another way that we can see the connection that people have, Stephen, is not by what we're showing you now on the screen, but in the chat. People, it's really wonderful that you all introduce yourself in the chat. I look at everyone, I'm sure all of you, many people do, is scroll down and see where you are all from and who's with us today, and we love that. And by putting your workplace and your title, we're hoping there's connections that you all make in the chat as well. But this map is a map of Indigenous people in the Alaska and lower 48 and Hawaii. And we keep track of people who register and their tribal affiliation. So this map just shows you the top 10 of number of people from these different tribes. We have had over 400 tribes represented in our past 2 years, which again is phenomenal and wonderful, and what an honor to share this space with you all. But these are the top 10, and you can see our friends of Passamaquoddy, Catawba, Eastern Band of Cherokee, Mississippi, Band of Choctaw Indians, Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma, Cherokee Nation, the Great Hopi Tribe of Arizona, Navajo Nation, which actually had the highest number of participants from a particular tribe, Blackfeet people up in Montana, and Tlingit Haida down in lower part of Alaska, Southeast Alaska. So we just wanted to give you kind of an at a glance, but know that in addition to these top 10, we've had about another 400 tribes that have been represented, and that includes state recognized tribes as well as federally recognized tribes. So hope you enjoyed that picture. And so the next slide is post-event views. This is a really interesting information. So what this means is you saw the number of people who register, over 1,000 right now. When you register, you know, you receive, and if you attend, you receive the PowerPoint that was used, and you receive the hour recording within a couple of days after each month. Post views is people who, after the computers have been shut down, after we all go back to our work or our day, people go back and look up sessions and watch them again. So in 2022, you can see our sessions in January and March. We've had getting close to 1,000 people have gone back to look at those sessions. January 2022 is not a huge surprise to me, because that was our first one. That was our Tadal, the inaugural session that I did, that I just talked about the vision about this and why we wanted to create this space. March of 2022, I'm quite certain that was Dr. Jeff King, who did a phenomenal presentation on Native influence on modern psychology. So those are the post views in 2022. And, you know, the scale at the bottom of 2022 goes up to 1,200. So, but over, you know, just think about it. After this is all over, people are going back and watching, clicking on it, opening it up and watching it again. 2023, same thing. We've had, see the scale at the bottom has changed a little bit, but it's up to 600. So almost 600 people have gone back and looked at January 2023 session. I don't know how they're using it. I'm imagining maybe as staff training, staff orientation, maybe classroom training, personal development. But I think this is really interesting that so many people go back and watch, go to the website, and then they look at the ones that we've done before. The reason it gets smaller, like October 2023, is because that's pretty recent. Over time, you'll see those numbers grow that people will go back. So just want to share that with you. So this is all food for thought. We're going to ask you all for some questions and share your ideas with us in just a minute. So the next slide is topics by month. So this one is just to show you, remind you of what we did in 2022 and 2023. It's interesting. Those are, you have to look to the on the right column to see the first year. So we did the intro in February. We did youth. You remember that? Nurturing brilliance in youth. We had wonderful two young, fabulous people speaking. March 2022 on the right-hand side. That was Jeff King that did Native Influence on Psychology. April, we had people from the Native Dads Network. They talked about Native help seeking and Native help declining. Then we moved into trauma and post-traumatic growth. I think we had Dr. D. Bigfoot and Dr. Susan Schmidt do that. We moved into assessment and diagnosis through Native Lens, and Portland Area Indian Health Board, I think, partnered with Jeff King, Dr. Danica Brown. July was an experiment, first time we did this, substance use and hungry ghosts. And we had the privilege of having Don Koyas from the Wellbriety movement, and we used a video of Dr. Gabor Mate. That was our experiment, to use a video speaker. Then we did Native Healing and Life Rebalance. That was Kateri Koyas. Native 988, Crisis Preparedness. And then Reframing Native Mental Health, which is Dr. Joe Grobant at Harvard, did a really interesting presentation on that. And then in 2023, this year, you will remember, we started with Native culture as treatment. Is underlined, is treatment. And then we did a couple of two-part series. We had our wonderful MD psychiatrist from the Mayo Clinic did two part A and part B on releasing the trauma our body holds. Brett Coplin. Then we did a standalone decolonized post-traumatic growth. And then we did another two-part, healing trauma in families related to substance use, part 1 and part 2. Another Native 988 update from the Washington State, Rochelle Williams. They were the first tribal 988. So we had her come back in July of 2023 on the left-hand side to give us an update. We had the great privilege of hearing Center for Disease Control talk about their funding that they have, tribal practices and wellness, and then action steps for cultural behavioral health healing. And then the most recent one, moving past tribal community crisis, which focused more on an emphasis on mass trauma as opposed to Western view of individual trauma. So that's the trip down memory lane for you all on the topics that we did. And so now we're going to move to the next slide, and we're going to ask feedback from you all. This is really important to us. And so we have a process for this, and I want to introduce our good friend and colleague, Lee Lock-Hardy. She is the C4 Innovations based in Boston, and she is their program operations manager, but she is also what I consider the IT, information and technology extraordinaire. So Lee is going to walk us through and walk you through the way you can help us by engaging in 3 polls. So Lee.
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Holly. And again, I'm so grateful to be here today. I have attended a good amount of these, but never in front of the camera. So very, very honored to be amongst you all. But we have a couple questions that we've used previously as well that have really worked well for us to try to understand, what we've been through, what we've accomplished, and then also where we have room to further grow and to bring new experiences and new topics in for y'all. For these questions, we wanted to put them up on screen because after this, we are going to ask you to use a website called Poll Everywhere, and that will be your option to give your feedback. But just to go over the questions so everyone has a chance to kind of mull them over before we put you on the spot and ask you. Question 1 will be about, in thinking of the sessions that we just talked about, those 2022 and 2023 sessions, any ones that you attended, what resonated with you? And then we'll go on to question 2, which will be about, are there any topics that you would like us to repeat or hear about it in more detail? So anything that we have already covered, but that you'd love to see again, or you'd love to hear about more. I know January, for example, we're going to have another reminder about the 988 crisis response. So that will be yet another update for us, and if there's any other ones that you'd like to hear an update about, please feel free to put that in question 2. And then finally, wrapping it up with question 3, are there any other topics that you'd like to learn more about? So topics that we haven't covered before in any of these sessions, or topics that you've been thinking about that you really love to hear professional or, different information from different speakers. So those 3 questions are going to be the questions for us to answer. And I am going to put up our options for showing you just a little bit about how to answer these. So I'm going to put on screen a number of things that you can use to interact. First of all, there is the Poll Everywhere link that I am going to also put in the chat to you all. So that is, you can click on that link and go check out the site to then answer some questions. I'm going to activate it. So that means that once you send it in, it will start showing up. I also have right here on my screen a QR code. So if you have your phone available and you want to, you can bring it up to your screen and just capture that QR code, and it will open up that website on your phone. That's if you're worried about missing the Zoom meeting and going somewhere completely different, feel free to use your phone to answer at the same time, or use your browser on your computer. Also, you can feel free to always use the chat. If you have any answers to these questions and you cannot find your way, that is totally okay. Again, everybody is at different levels. Oh, we already got people responding. Woohoo! All right. You made my day. Whoever just answered that anonymously just made my day in utilizing this tool. So I'm going to give some more time for folks to answer, but we definitely see first hearing lived experience and clinical expertise was very helpful. If you have any comments, please, again, feel free to leave it in the chat, to use the QR code on screen, or to follow the link. And we'll watch and see as some of these responses come in. Awesome. I appreciate the cultural relevancy and inclusion of traditional practices. Culture is evidence-based. Love that. Especially appreciated the topic on assessment through cultural lens. Real-life examples of experience in the Native community. Culture as treatment. Totally. And I see Kristen in the chat, more info on assessment and the context of the Native community. Don Coyes, illness created by trauma and history and how to heal it. Cultural component being healing. Shout out to the music videos. They really are such a huge, huge piece of this presentation. I see a whole lot about culture here. So Holly, I'll give you any chance to give your feedback on what you're seeing.
No, this is fabulous. And thanks for the shout out on the music.
The native ways of framing mental health and wellness. Native Brilliance is for all ages. See in the chat, generational trauma, healing circles or tools to help this along. Awesome. Youth involved initiatives. Awesome. Perfect. If you already answered, I appreciate you even taking the time, and folks who are answering in the chat, I see that too. And all of this is stuff that we are going to collect, these morsels of information, and we'll be able to bring you even more. So we will have much more opportunity to answer these questions. We'll be sending out a survey post-event where you'll be able to answer these same questions and have a reminder of the different topics that we've discussed. But unfortunately, I have to bring us to the next question to keep us moving. I would stay on this all day, but I'm going to put on our next one.
That's great,
So,
though. And I see people are putting things in chat too. So any way you want to
awesome.
tell us, share your thoughts, keep it up. This is great.
Yeah, so we'll move on to question 2, which as a reminder is, are there any topics you would like us to repeat or hear about in more detail? Hearing a shout out for the Native Dads Network, Two-Eyed Seeing. See some comments from folks in the chat saying it's beautifully arranged and shared. Indigenous brain spotting and decolonizing the mind. Loving the chat, seeing amazing hosts. That is also, I mean, I'd say that's a huge piece of why I keep coming back for sure. Updates on substance use disorder, Indigenous feminism and Two-Spirit. Seeing in the chat, keeping us engaged. Seeing in the chat and also here, murdered and missing Indigenous people. As well as generational trauma. That's definitely one that's come up. Grief recovery. Rural mental health focus. Heart math. I want to know more about that. Love that. The Iroquois Confederacy strongly influencing the U.S. Constitution and latest research in Indian country. Another one. Wow. Again, I would keep it going forever, but Holly, are you feeling like we can leave this one open for a little bit, or would you like me to move to the next one?
I think maybe leave it open for just 1 minute and then
Totally.
to the third question. No, these are
Awesome.
fantastic. And I really like brain spotting. I'm really into those other elements of beyond just spiritual, cultural, but the power of our brain. And there's many of in here I see that are really very helpful to us. These are ideas that we use to help design the 2024 series again. So very important. I see several ones related to justice and current research and non-natives working in native space. So I think we should switch to the third one.
Awesome. Like I said, I could just sit here all day, but I know that we have places to go and more questions to ask. I'll activate this one. This one is our third question, like our last question. So if you haven't shared, but you have something on the mind, please feel free to share it here about any other topics that we might not have covered previously that you'd like to learn more about. And again, I love the folks sharing in the chat, folks responding using this tool. Again, we just like to bring lots of different tools and different ways for you to communicate, because that is, like Holly said, the main piece. Ooh, this one's a word map. It's a little bit different.
Awesome.
People's responses will show up.
I see someone in the chat also said that their poll locked up, but everyone's pollings are his thoughts.
Right. Yes. So to open a new one, I had to deactivate the previous one. So like I said, if you have anything, please feel free to add them in the chat. And then also we'll be sending out a survey post-event where you'll be able to also add in more. I'm seeing a lot of, we got, oh, it's keep moving. Programs, capacity, competence, practice. All these answers will also be gathering.
Yeah. Nice to see Eduardo's name, one of my old buddies.
Love, I see resilience in the chat.
Mhm.
Ethics, strategies, wellness, food,
Mm.
anxiety, grief. Seeing peer there, that's a huge one. Love that in the chat. Maybe a question and answer safe time for people to ask questions that they might not generally be able to ask. Seeing archaeology, tell me more. Equity. See folks responding in the chat about Native Americans of mixed heritage, Afro-Indigenous folks. Spirit injury and healing and reconciliation for tribal veterans. Poll is full. Wow. I did not think we would get to that. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm amazed and so pleased to see that. But again, we'll leave the chat open and offer that as a place again if you want to add more. I apologize for us getting to the end of that. I'm just so excited.
That's a very exciting. Full.
Yeah. So we'll leave
Well,
that open.
Yeah, and we certainly have plenty of space in the chat. Other ways to provide input. This is fantastic. Really incredibly helpful. And thank you, Lee. You're such a good explainer on how to, and we give great applause to Lee for creating the tech method on how to do this and so easily understood. You're easy to follow when you explain it, Lee. So thank you so much for your commitment to this. We have many people behind the scenes like Lee that native and non-native that really give their all to this series, volunteer, I'll do it, I can fix that, I can create that. And Lee's one great example of that. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Holly. I'm so glad that folks are, taking part in different ways of sharing information and different ways of communicating that make it accessible for all of us. So thank you.
Let me just say a couple of things. When we designed the first year, 2022, we spent in 2020, which was COVID year, y'all might remember, we spent quite a bit of time just thinking about it, thinking about the topics, thinking about how to design this from the topics perspective. And in 2022, actually, we did the planning and thinking heavily in 2021, post-COVID. And we wanted to, it was really important to me that we have some connectedness between each month. So it didn't feel like hodgepodge. And that we had a theme in a sense. So we put some thought into 2022, our first year, and we were able to show you all a calendar for the whole year. So people could make notes on their calendar and maybe there's particular topics they were interested in. 2023 was more emerging topics. That's why the crisis response came up a little bit more frequently, and the substance use challenge in so many Native communities. So we took a little bit of a change in 2023 by focusing more on emerging topics, trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit, try to provide you all with information on cutting edge Native approaches to the work. So, and now January, we'll start 2020, our third year, 2024. And we have a timeline issue, it's not a negative, it's just the way it is. Because of continuing education, we have to have topics done several months in advance. So we can submit that information to the credentialing group, which is Cardia, a fabulous group based out of Seattle. So we had to come up with a topic for January because of the continuing education, but we still have no topics for February for the rest of the year, and that's where we're going to take your input. So your ideas, your thoughts, your brilliance is a huge help to us, and I can't tell you how much we all appreciate it. I saw some ideas you all brought up that will give us a lot of food for thought. One is, of course, I already mentioned the brain piece, the research and non-natives working in Native spaces. Sexual abuse is one topic I saw that came up that we haven't talked about. Vulnerability of our Native young people and recovery, that in itself is a huge topic. The land back movement, everything we tie it back to behavioral health in some way. And land back is an interesting, powerful movement, place-based treatment, so to speak, place-based therapy, place-based recovery. We know how powerful that is. But in total, what we continue to do is to create a safe space for you. There's never a right or wrong question. Whatever's on your mind, we want to hear it. We take time to review everything in the polls that Lee developed. And thank you all for participating in that. And the same thing with the chat. Certainly we'll take a really close look at the chats that are in this session. So thank you all so much, and thank you for sharing your ideas and your expertise, your perspective of serving your communities wherever you are, and for helping keeping this reclaiming Native psychological brilliance movement continuing to go forward. So I just wanted to say a few things to kind of summarize what we've seen and give thanks to everybody that's worked on this team, and thanks to the audience. And I wonder if Bernice from USAT or anyone else, Stephen, have any additional thoughts they want to add.
Thanks, Holly. I think you said it all. I enjoyed every part of this endeavor with you. I know it's been a couple of years so far, and there's been so much work and effort put into this from so many different people, including everybody that's on this call right now. So I appreciate everything you guys have done being here with us today. Thank you.
And we have a couple of other team members as well. And so after your comments, Stephen, I'm going to call on a couple of people.
Yes, I just want to echo the sentiment of Bernice. You know, I think back when Holly and I were having these conversations back in 2019, wondering what this was going to be like. You know, was it going to be worth all of the time and effort and energy and everything that we put into the planning? And, you know, now after 2 years of it, you know, it has just grown to be something that is so beautiful. And we have, you know, all of you all to thank for that and your participation, you know, putting your feedback in the chat and your comments, and, we've found a lot of positive impact and feedback through comments of participants stating that if they don't learn anything from these echoes, it's healing for them, which is very good to hear that participants find a lot of healing value within attending these sessions. So, I just want to thank you all for continuing to attend every month, as well as give a big shout out and applause to all the staff that have put so much hard work into the planning of these every month, because we're just so proud of the network that we're able to create and the knowledge that we're able to share with one another.
Thank you, Stephen. So let me turn to Olivia Davis, who is part of our planning team and who's on the call. I just wonder if you had anything you want to share, Olivia. Then I have two other people I wanted to call on.
I think Livia may have jumped off. So
Oh, she might have
apologies
been.
to whoever
Okay.
is going to get ticked next. I didn't plan it.
Well, I was wondering, Jackie Vorpal, I wonder if you have such respect for you as a tribal psychologist. I see that you're on. I wonder if you have any thoughts about the series or direction or just anything from that might be on your mind at the moment.
Wow, Holly, putting me on the spot. I look forward to these every month. I make sure I'm available. I learn so much. I love hearing about what's going on all around the country. And, I would love if we could develop a directory, some kind of resource for people. I love the resource library we're building because when I work with different organizations and I'm working with non-native people, I can pull one of these trainings and I can say, you know what, I would like you to watch this and let's talk about it. And it makes my job so much easier. But there's so much value to the other folks that I'm working with that appreciate it too. So I don't even know if you guys realize the ripple effect that these have really had. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for asking.
Those are wonderful 2 cents. Thank you for sharing that. I thought you're an important example, Jackie, of the value of tribal psychologists that we have around the country and the Society of Indian Psychologists. And I just wanted to recognize you as representing that different level of work. And thank you for sharing that. And I want to call on one other person. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot too much, but I think it's really important that we hear from Alaska Native perspective. And I wonder, Danielle, I see that you're on as the Rural Clinical Supervisor from South Central Foundation, which is a very well-known and highly honored organization. I wondered if you had any thoughts on your mind that you'd like to share.
Hi, good morning. I am a grateful non-native on this call and just extremely grateful to be a part of this community as well, supporting within South Central Foundation. So I want to hold the space for, like you had mentioned, the Alaska Native and American Indian population on this call too. But very honored to be a part of this and know that there's never enough support up in Alaska in the rural areas. So I've loved getting to share these wonderful experiences that I've had joining these calls with new clinicians that are starting within my team that are going to these villages.
How do you use the information with new clinicians? Let me just ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually encouraged several of them to register for themselves so that they can attend and experience this wonderful community as well as I've been able to, so that they get to be involved in this community. And also then I think for some of them, they've mentioned encouraging to have some of their customer owners as well as other professionals of South Central join too.
Terrific, thank you. We have a couple minutes and then before we close out, and we always close out with our final video, but we don't get to hear much from our relatives in Hawaii. And I wonder, Misty, I see that you're on from Crow Nation and the Hawaiian Disaster Recovery Program Coordinator, which is really impressive. I wondered if you can come off mute and just share any thought from your perspective.
Yeah, aloha everyone. Tuning in from Hilo, Hawaii this morning. It's good to be with everyone from all nations. I currently serve as a program coordinator here with the Disaster Recovery Division on the island of Hawaii. Of the 8 islands, it is the largest. Happy to take any questions, or please feel free to share my contact information. But we do work with properties that were inundated by the 2018 eruption here in Hawaii. And after 5 years, our community continues to be resilient and continues to strive and persevere through what some may see as a disaster or a destruction, but from that comes growth. So thank you for allowing me to share. I'm so thankful that we're on the map now here in Hawaii. But I also am a member of the Crow Nation in Montana, where my family resides, from Crow Agency, Billings, to Pryor, Montana.
Awesome. Thank you, Misty. Okay, so just one more comment, and I'm going to call on my Oklahoma buddy, Raquel Ramos. Raquel, if you're on, do you have any thoughts you want to share before we close out with the video? Thank you all for doing this, because no one knew I'm calling on people. And I saw Raquel. I don't know if she's trying to get off mute or if she's still, maybe she had to leave. Raquel is part of the National Indian Education Association, phenomenal trainer. And she and I shared a day at the Tribal Recovery Summit that SAMHSA held in Dallas earlier this year. So Raquel, I don't know, maybe you're not on. You might have had to leave. So let me just thank everybody again for sharing your heart and sharing your brilliance, and know that all of your comments are important to us, and we acknowledge your ideas and your experience. We're going to take all this information and feed it into our process, to our think tank, our own native think tank of how we design this upcoming years. Everything's basically always the same in terms of date and time. None of that changes. Continuing education will be offered as usual for January through October. None of that changes. And I think it's only going to continue to get better and continue to grow. And thanks for the ideas of how to make a stronger network, because we also want to look at the people who have been with us every month since January 2022. And so we acknowledge the commitment of some of the folks that have been able to tune in every month. So I think that's all I have to say. Bernice, unless you have anything else to close this out, it's 5 minutes till when you really start.
So yeah, I know we have a lot of elders in the room. And I know, Holly, I don't know if you want to say that you're one of them, but we really do. And we would like to acknowledge you for being here as well. And if there's any elders that would like to say anything in this space, please come off mute and say, anything pertaining to this, to these sessions. If you would like to add anything, that would be great. But we're going to give you this space right now to go ahead and do that. We really value your word. I don't know if anybody wants to. Oh, we have one. Anna Milani.
Malinali, thank you. I'm an elder with Table Women United Grandmother Circle in New Mexico. And I just wanted to say I thank you for these beautiful sessions, and I look forward to them, like Misty Carter said, every month, and I don't want to miss any of them because they're so beautiful. And the music, of course, is fantastic. But I can share this with the other elders in our group and the younger ones coming up in the organization, these things that you teach us. Thank you very much. Praso Kamati, Wilmia.
Thank you so much for that. Just like we said, I mean, your presentation and being here means a lot to us. So we want to give you a reminder, and any questions that you may have, to just email myself, Bernice UP Jordan, at my email address, Brian Hendricks or Deviani Bajpi. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and email us and you can follow up with anything. Also in the chat, there is a Survey Monkey question error. And it was put in by Lee. And if you could take some time to go ahead and take that Survey Monkey, that will definitely help us with our future sessions. Also, thank you for joining the Reclaiming Native Psychological Brilliance Behavioral Health Echo Series. And as Holly stated, it is every fourth Tuesday of the month, 11 a.m. Pacific, 12 Mountain, 1 Central, and 2 Eastern. Our first session of the 2024 series will be Evolution of Native Crisis Response. And that will be January 23rd, 2024. Next slide. And again, happy holidays as you guys, enjoy these times during, Thanksgiving and, moving forward to Christmas and the new year. The next video we wanted to show you is William Pritz. He's doing a cover of Home. And here is the video. Next slide. Thanks again, everybody, for joining.
I chose Home by Michael Bublé because I genuinely loved the song when I first heard it on the radio and got to know a bit of Michael Bublé's story. And just sonically, it's such a pleasing tune to the ear. It's one of those soft delivered, but still ends up picking you up kind of songs. And that's kind of the way I feel about my music. And I felt that it would be the easiest to adapt to for the session. So I was thrilled that it was on the list. Another sunny day has come and gone away in Paris and Rome, and I wanna go home. Maybe surrounded by a million people, I still feel all alone. Just wanna go home. Oh, I miss you, you know. And I've been keeping all the letters that I wrote to you, each one a line or two. I'm fine, baby, how are you? I would send them, but I know that it's just not enough. My words were cold and flat, and you deserve more than that. Another sunny day, another airplane. I'm lucky, I know, but I wanna go home. Just let me go home. Let me go home. Oh, I'm just too far from where you are. Got to go home. And it feels just like I'm living someone else's life. It's like I just stepped outside and everything was going right. And I know that you just could not come along with me. This was not your dream, but you always believed in me. Another sunny day has come and gone away. Maybe Paris and Rome, and I just wanna go home. Oh, I miss you, you know. And I'm surrounded by a million people. I still feel alone. Let me go home. Just wanna go home. Let me go home. Oh, I've had my run. Baby, I'm done. I'm coming back home. Let me go home. It'll all be alright. I'll be home tonight. I'm coming back home.
What a great day.
Out there
Thank you
recording.
all for sharing the hour. You know, we always say, be safe, take care, have a brilliant Native Day.
Recording.